And we're live.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, ready to go.
Good, everybody, and welcome to this continuation of last Wednesday's council meeting. Just noting for the record that we have online now Councillor Tamarelli, Shirley Calvert, Cheryl Laws, Stephen Jeffrey and Stu Duncan. Tracy Patterson unable to be here, and Ian Kearney's apology from the previous meeting continues. I also welcome to our live link members of the public and particularly members of the media who may be watching in on this meeting. We've got 2 hours set aside for this. We're going to have to maintain discipline. So please stick to the individual items as they come up. It's also, as many of you are aware from having done it yourselves, difficult to chair what is essentially a hybrid meeting with pretty much half the people in the room and half the people out. If you are joining us by Teams, please use the hand function. Wayne will make sure that I'm aware of somebody wishing to speak, and that's better than trying to chime in, but I know it's not easy to do it online.
Or they can put C or Q in the chat.
I need to put a Q in the chat, but I can't. I'm not monitoring the chat.
Oh,
you will be running home. Right, so the first part of this meeting, just to let you know how we're going to operate, the first part's just going to be a snapshot of the books. Saskia will run that, and also must note that Acting CEO Louise Vandervoort is joining us from Christchurch Airport, where she hopes to be able to get home from today. Was intending to be here, but can't be simply due to the flights. We're going to have the snapshot of the books. My intention from there is that we will go through the 3 separate blocks on the full page of the spreadsheet we have. So that is what would be the summary page. A little bit trickier for those of you online because you won't have the printouts, but I will endeavour to make sure that I refer you to the right line that we're dealing with. As we go through each of these, if I get an indication that there is a degree of yeses and nos towards progressing with any of these, I'll take a snapshot of hands. It won't be a vote, but I'll just get an indication of whether we put it on the list to be voted on or not. And as we come to each, there'll be 3 motions. As we come to each of those, we can then deal with finessing what ones may or may not need to be taken out. So it will take a bit of doing, it will take a bit of management, but luckily we have a very experienced council and staff. We'll get through it without any problems. Any questions, team? No? Thank you. Saskia, the floor is yours. And Dan.
Kim, we'll start with Kim. Kim's going to take us through the first half of our presentation.
Welcome, Kim.
And Kim forces on Teams.
Thank you. We thought we'd start with a snapshot of how the books were at year end for 2021/22. So if we go on to, I can't actually see the slide while I'm online, but we'll go to the second slide. And of course, these are unaudited accounts. So what we had budgeted for in the LTP was to have a surplus of 7.6 million, but our actual surplus for last financial year ended up to be 28.4 million. And we had also budgeted in the long-term plan year 1 of having to borrow 25 million, whereas we only actually ended up borrowing 5 million at the end of the year. So you might want to understand a wee bit of how that surplus of 28 million came about. We had 10.5 million in subsidies and grants for capital purposes, and we also had 10 million in invested assets. We managed to get another 600k in rates due to the growth between setting the LTP and the actual striking of the rates. And we also earned more in fees and charges. So that's about 1.2 million. And we achieved.
I'm not sure we're on the right page.
Sorry, we are. We don't have a slide.
Sorry, I'm just
what the surplus is made up of.
Okay. Cool. We just saw some other things that we thought might have been what we were hearing about. Thank you.
Yeah. So that 28 million is made up of 10.5 million of subsidies and grants that we receive for capital purposes. 10 million is vested assets, And then we had additional 600 in rates revenue achieved through growth from when we struck the rates and when we did the LTP budget, because there's usually quite a time lag in between striking the rates. We earned an additional 600k in fees and charges, and we received a better profit margin on the land sales. So if we move on to the next slide, slide 3, you'll see the reserves.
Yeah, sorry, just pause and ask you. Sorry, we'll just pause. Neil has a question before you go further forward, please. We'll do questions each slide, please.
So Kim, the 10 point something was vested assets?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's no cash. That's actually not cash surplus.
No, that's right. Yep. But it ends up in your surplus here.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's actually so of the 28.4 million, 10.1 is not cash.
Yep.
It's just an accounting treatment that just is put in place to confuse mortals like me.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Kim, Nigel, the 28 million surplus, did I miss something? I've got 10, 20,
Oh, that was just
about 22 million.
That was the highlights, I think.
Just the highlights. We've got another 282 saved in payments to external suppliers because of COVID.
Yeah. Even the rest of rats and mice.
Yeah, they're the main drivers.
$6 million of rat and mice.
I think we might need a slide to be added to this before it all comes out to us, so that we've got captured in writing in front of us what Kim's just talked us through, because it's quite hard with some of the numbers that are coming to.
In terms of the resolution of the note, though,
It's not that relevant.
it's not that relevant.
Handy to have.
No.
Yeah, not that relevant for the resolutions. I totally agree.
And at this point, it's unaudited. It hasn't been through.
No, it's going to come to us through the audit. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Good point. Okay, we can move on. Thanks, Kim. And Kim.
So if we move on to the reserves table, you see that we ended up with a surplus of 281,723. We were actually forecasting, if you recall, we were looking at 10 million if we had spent all our capex and carry forward at the end of last year. So when you look at the different areas that's broken down by, you can see that the district is taking up most of the others' reserves if they had to pay back that district of the 27.8 million. And that is mainly in the area of the Three Waters. So if we move on to the next slide, we just mention about how there's operational savings of 1.7. From that operational savings, the business is asking for 1.3 to take from reserves, and of the capex, we're asking for 1.2 additional to those carry forwards that have already been approved. Next slide, I think Anne was going to.
Yeah, so we're just talking about the capex, looking at what we're actually spending, because it was a wee bit confusing between the LTP. We had 37.7 million budgeted for capex, but we ended up with in the actual annual plan of 50 million, and the difference in there is basically made up of the wastewater for Clyde of 4.7 million and the Lake Dunstan water supply of 7.2, that both of those were approved by council to increase before we adopted the annual plan. So it was just, those slides were just to show you that that's what we started with. So if you look at the last one, which was in the report, the carry forwards of 23.8 million, what were approved at the meeting last Thursday. The total annual plan budget is 50.2, and if you add the two together, we've got 74 0.1 million of capital expected to spend, and then the next column we're looking at an additional 1.2, which gives us a forecast figure of 75 million for the 22-23 year.
That includes though 817,650 have already resolved. 1.2.
The 1.2, yes, yes. So that's what's in the paper today of the 517 and 300.
Yeah, so those two have already been approved by council resolution.
Yes,
So,
yes, they by resolution, but not as a carry forward.
and they weren't picked up as the carry forwards we did on Wednesday.
They were in the report, and I'm not too sure why they were separate.
Okay.
Do you know that, Tim?
They weren't captured.
No, they weren't captured, so doesn't matter. They weren't
Doesn't
captured,
matter
so-
at this stage.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Wayne, are you bringing the report up?
Oh, thank you, yeah.
Any questions for Anne and Kim on that presentation before we will the mayor moves us through each of the sections? Okay.
Alrighty, so we're going first to, for those of you who have paper copies in front of you, the page that doesn't have much writing on it. And that's just simply recognising what we've just been shown, which is the $1.712 million in underspend. So that's why that's there. We don't need to trouble ourselves with that at the moment. So now we go over the page where there's all the good stuff. And for folks who are looking at the, so everyone can see that screen, mate? Well, if you're looking at your Excel spreadsheet, we're now on what for you are lines 3 through to 8, starting people and culture and dropping down to governance and community engagement. No, I apologise, lines 12 through to 16. Couldn't have got it wrong sooner if I tried. So it's lines 12 through to 16. And we're going to go through these. These are all approved by council resolution. So there's just a couple of questions I have on these, one for clarification and one a hard out question, you might say. And the first one is for me, and I'll get people to ask further questions after I've gone. The police lockup, my recollection was that that was to come out of VCB's reserves. So I don't understand why it's here to be taken out of underspends, because it should just be the VCB wake up one day and they've got $46,000 less in their reserves, not repaid through underspending by the rest of the organisation. Or have I got that wrong?
Sorry, Tim, what line number?
My apologies, Nigel. It's the very top of
Right.
your page.
Kim, do you want to talk to that? I think it's because all the reserves are pulled together in the reforecast. Kim, you might like to explain that.
So that is a resolution, which is correct, and that is we're just adding it into the budget according to the resolution, and then there's 31k additional to that resolution from savings
Sorry,
to be used for painting.
I think if we go back to the reserves buckets that we had before, overall we've got 281,000 sitting in the reserves, which is made up of all the different community boards plus the district, and all of those figures, is that right, Kim? All of those come into our reforecast figures, regardless of which community board they're in.
Yep. Yeah, so we start off with a baseline of 281, and all these resolutions will come out of that as well as the additional spending that they're requesting.
I might need to have a bit more of a understanding of the reserves. Can we get back to that slide, because that number doesn't quite equate to what I think that the reserves balance might well be. And there's probably a good reason for that. It's just probably terminology. Because I'm sure if you go to somewhere like into the Cromwell General Development Fund, there's millions of dollars sitting there.
Sorry.
But that's obviously not what you mean by the reserves that are here.
Oh,
No, so when we talk about the 281, we're talking of all the reserves, including the district. So Cromwell is in surplus, does have about 19, I
Okay.
think. Yeah. It's when you
So the
take
key
into
thing about-
account the deficit of the district-wide
Yeah.
reserves, you were only left with physically 281.
Yeah. So we'll just
But
use
if we
internal
pull-
money to fund it.
Yes, well, we're actually
Yeah.
borrowing now for our cash flow.
Yeah. So the key thing is that the reserve balance for the Cromwell or each of the community boards remains unchanged in terms of the
That's
reserves
right.
they've got, and they can spend that money. Just means the council will then have to go and pay back what they've already borrowed or used, or do it externally, whatever. But so the money is still there. The council's just used the cash.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and it's like if we then say, right, Cromwell wants to call on that money, and the district has already used it, then the district has to refund that money, go and borrow it externally, pay the interest cost, and the board can spend its money.
Yes, yep.
Did that help?
No,
Oh,
sorry.
Do you want to pull up the slide?
but the
Yeah,
slide
you've
up
got
the
it.
outcome.
But no,
Oh, okay.
mine's a bit broader. If we go, we've saved, the organisation saved 1.7. What we're being asked for today is 1.3 of that 1.7 saving to be applied to a number of things. In this one instance, where a board chose to spend its reserves, why are its reserves going to stay the same and get funded by savings across the organisation? But
No, they won't.
no, it won't.
Can I ask, sorry,
Yeah.
Tim, can I just ask, what's the balance of the VCB reserves?
5.9.
5.9.
so I don't think that that VCB resolution has any difference to the carry forwards. It's just simply bringing into the budgets that
Yes.
expenditure.
Okay.
That's all it's
right.
doing. So it's not going to affect where it's funded from, and it's nothing to, and I would say those first 6 items have got nothing to do with the carryovers.
Right.
Is that?
That's right.
That's right.
Correct.
So it's just basically coming out of that bucket of 281,000 reserves, regardless of where it falls in there.
Okay.
But technically, it's coming out of a bucket called Vincent of 5.9 million. That's probably if we looked at it that way, that will stop us worrying about the fact that there's only 281,000 in reserves. It's actually coming out of the Vincent bucket of 5.9.
My incomprehension is even more basic because you're saying that we've got 6 line items that have been approved by council resolution, and when we approve those line items, we will approve a budget line full. And we're now playing around with that budget line and saying we want some of the underspend or the savings applied here.
That they're in the resolution, the council has approved them, we just haven't spent it yet. So it's just, that's what, of that 1.3 million that we want to spend, that's already been approved by resolution, we just haven't spent it yet.
So why is it here at all?
To put it into the budget.
Just because in the report last week,
Okay.
Yeah.
to balance out the 1.3 so that you can see what it's made up of.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you. All right.
So I ignore things like the timing on the William, because it's a big line item, 517,000. We've got a boiler that's been up and running for 4 months. So why?
Yeah, but the costs, it wasn't commissioned until after the 30th of June. So some of the costs still haven't come through. So we've
quick into the new year. Okay, all right.
approved
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any other questions in relation to on the paper spreadsheet lines 1 to 6 on the Excel 12 to 17? We're all happy with those? Thank you. We'll move a resolution on that when we finish. So we now come to on our paper sheet.
Because it's quite discreet.
Yeah.
You want to do it as you go.
Do you want to do it as you go, Wayne? What's easier for you?
We can, yeah, we do.
Do it as you go. Right.
After getting to the end of the.
Each block.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So in that case,
Sorry, through the.
yes.
Yeah, we've got one additional one that we'll talk to you later. It's the community grant currently listed in number 26. Listed as promotional grant. It's actually a community grant that was already approved by VCB to come from reserves. It should be sitting up in that top group as well if you're about to make a resolution about this.
Will it make any difference if we don't do it now and leave it into that other group, it will still get paid. Well, not paid, but it will still carry forward. I take your point that it probably should be there, but for cleanness here,
Yeah.
I think we'll just keep it where we're at. Okay, so. Okay, so there is some additional here. Sorry,
Yes,
thank you.
just through the chair, there is one additional. So if we go back to the Clyde Police Locker, so there was 46K that was approved by VCB. There is additional to do painting work, and we had one of our property team talk to that, please.
Where do we find that? Is
So
that
that's on our line 1.
Yeah.
So 46 already approved by VC, increase 36. So no, it's not clearly articulated here. but yes.
No, I think that the, that is, oh, sorry, carry on.
Lee, you.
Sorry, my understanding is that the resolution was for 46,000, which
Yeah.
is what we've got here. In addition to that, there's some painting, but that was simply an underspend,
Okay,
Oh,
right, okay.
which is on line 9. Sorry, line number 10 on the left-hand
Oh,
side.
it's
R&M
we
painting
had
at
two.
Journals.
Apologies, we had
So
two.
those two add up to the 72,000
Yes, excellent, apologies.
plus 5
And
further
as
down.
we were,
Because the budget was 46 just for the move, and then there's the
Yeah.
actual underspend we carried
Yeah.
forward. Okay, so as Neil put it succinctly, as we were. So what I'm going to do, we've already passed an A and a B on this paper, which A was to receive it and B was for the CapEx that we did on Wednesday. So I'm now going to move a C, which notes expenditure already approved by existing resolutions, OPEX of 182 and CapEx of 817,650, which is basically lines 1 to 6.
I think we need a reference back to this document, so it's quite clear what is being picked up.
Yes. Would this be the document, Wayne, or would it be the Excel spreadsheet?
One of them, same.
One and the same,
Yeah.
just different number.
Yeah.
So you can say the first 6 lines of
Well,
So I can put that as an attachment.
yes,
attachment.
To
refer to the line numbers on
and
that.
refer to the lines 1 to 6.
Perfect.
That's
Okay,
right.
so what I just read, notes expenditure already approved by existing resolutions, OPEX 182, CapEx 817,650, as captured by lines 1 to 6 of the attached document. I'll move that. Thank you, Martin. Any further discussion?
Aye.
All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Right. That was a good
Good start.
start, folks. All right. Now we're going on to
Downhill from here.
on the sheet lines 7 through to 25, and on the Excel spreadsheet line 21 to 44. So this is verbally district plan through to Molyneux toilets. So line 39 rather, I should say. Okay, so how's best to handle this? I think we need to go line by line, and if you have questions, whistle out.
Could I just clarify?
That might be a
The
good
first
idea.
column has got all the OPEX,
Mhm.
and if they look at the bottom total, we've got the 1.3. The next column is CapEx that I've split, so that was the 910 plus the 300. So it's just split into whether it's an underspend or whether it's additional that we're asking for.
So to put it in a simpler term, everything under OPEX and CapEx within this block, the 7 to 25, is stuff that has been already approved but hasn't been spent.
Yeah. For the 21-22 year.
So things like, let's look at the first line, the district plan 258 isn't spent. Is that simply because with illness and other factors, the work wasn't done?
I think it's because it's a
10-year
10-year plan.
project.
10-year project, so it's a timing thing.
Yeah, and we definitely have
Yeah.
had some, as you appreciate, some real challenges, staffing in that space, so that 258 will be due to be spent this year. I don't know.
Absolutely, just through the chair, so we're approximately with that review position plan about 6 months behind. And so with different illnesses, but the work is being undertaken now. We have started with the lights of plan change on the team. We'll have dark skies that is coming to see yourselves shortly. Typically, the spatial plan is underway for all those works as well. So that's the work plan money's relation to.
So if this is If items 7 to 25 refer to what has already been approved and the funding line approved, if we look at something like line 17, this is the word additional appears. How does that work?
Well, probably should, sorry, I should have taken additional out. It was,
maybe we should start at line 9.
Yeah.
That's what my first question is about that particular issue, because the additional comes up quite a few times. Yes.
What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to ask if there's any questions on line 7.
Nope.
District plan.
Correct.
Are there any questions on line 8, engineers fees?
Yes.
And now we come to number 9, and you have questions, Neil?
I just only because I note that there's $5,400 that was unspent, and we've got a $6,000 reallocation to Patearoa, and I'm going, okay, that doesn't seem to add up because I've got 6 and now I've got 5.4.
Where's the 6 and the?
If it's 5.4 to carry over for R&M on Omakara Miners Lane that was not spent, and it can be spent on R&M for Miners Lane toilets and Omakara, then but I'm not sure what the 6K reallocation to Patearoa means.
Just give our property team a chance to figure that out.
I think there's of the original 72,000 that went out in the original report, 72,000 was made up of the Clyde lockup, which I had at 36. I thought it was 36, but it was actually 46. So there's 21,000 on row 10, and there's another 5,000 on row 37. So the 3 of them add up to the original 72. So sorry, it's been a bit of a rush to get all this together. I think if you take the 21 plus the 5 gives you 26,000 of that. Oh no, sorry. No, I've lost it. We might have to come back to that one.
I was talking about Miners Lane right now.
Yeah, sorry,
Property team, can you help out on line 9, thanks?
No, yeah, line 9, not number 9.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I was looking at the next one down.
Might just coming back, so I'm just giving us a few minutes.
All right, we'll come back to that one. Somebody please keep us.
Sorry, I'm treating myself.
Okay, thank you, James.
Yeah, so that OPEX is being carried forward from other toilets to cover for Otago and Miners Lane, which are new toilets.
Right.
And there was no budget against that, so we asked to carry it forward to put against that.
So two comments that I would make there. Firstly, if the 5,400 wasn't money that, in my view, wasn't money that was put in payment for Miners Lane and Otago, then that's a request for new spend. And it still doesn't answer why we've got, under our explanation, $11,400 worth of work, and under our OPEX 5,400, which was Neil's first question.
In the interest of keeping this moving.
We'll come back to you. Thank you. Any questions on Maniatoto trails, which?
And they're going to come back on R&M painting external buildings as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. I have a question on line number 13, which for the folk on the spreadsheets is 27, the Wild and Conifer Trust, $38,000 carry forward. Understand the 15,000, which is work not finished in the Maniatoto, and the 23K board still considering community feedback. We've now got a policy, so I don't think it changes the money, because we still need the money in there, because we actually are now definitely doing it.
Yeah, so the carry forward makes sense.
Makes sense, that one.
Yeah. My next question is not from 16.
Okay, number 14.
Lindley,
sorry, Lindley?
Sorry, I just don't quite understand that we're definitely doing it. I thought it was still under discussion.
There's a council policy that was moved 2 months ago and passed 2 months ago that says on our land, wild and pines as identified by the Wild and Conifer Control Group will get knocked over.
But the community feedback was pre-that policy.
We're not relitigating a matter that was raised and dealt with 2 months ago.
So does the community understand that?
It was well publicised. Right, number 14, airport legal concept plans. That looks pretty obvious. Council office value of fees is obvious. let's talk about the pay increase of 120,000. That's line 17 on paper 30 on the 16. Good grief. Right, Saskia, do you want to do it?
Yes, so as councillors are well aware that we've been doing a piece of work around strategic pay in this organisation and making sure our staff are paid fairly. What we have identified through that piece of work, there are some adjustments that are needed. You're also well aware that we do have some areas or some challenging areas around retention and recruitment of staff, that what Saatchi is wanting to do is to use that 120,000 to make those critical adjustments within the organisation. I don't know, Lucy, if you want to say anything further on that?
No, I think you've covered it well, Saskia.
So it's new budget.
It's already existing. It was already in the budget, sitting in Saatchi's budget. It's just that we've only just now finalised the strategic pay framework. So now we know where our gaps are. So Saatchi wants through Lou to critically address some areas that we know we haven't quite got right. And to say we have got some flight risk, we've got some challenges as you guys all know.
So it was incomplete work from last financial year.
Yeah.
And therefore, okay, so my next question says, is there a budget implication for the next financial year, or has it already got it in for year 3? Given we're in year 2.
That's a good question. Now, I think it will have, and finance can help me out here, it will have an implication because this is.
But we knew that when we put in the implication should have actually been in year 2.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
So I get what we did. We've already put the money there for this purpose. We were going to get an increase in the budget in year 2. Now it's been delayed to year 3, and the remedies have been applied in year 2. So that makes I get that.
And at the time, we were told this money would come from savings of vacancies, basically. So this is the paper trail for that.
Yeah.
But I guess the note to yourself is make sure it's in year 3 budget.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will. We'll have real numbers.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question on that, please, Saskia? It's Tamer. Is that money for critical adjustments looking to retain the staff we have, or to fill those hard to fill vacancies we've been carrying for a long time?
The main piece for Tamer is to fill the critical need within existing staff, and to where we have identified with our framework we're not paying people is their worth in the market is to make those adjustments of current staff.
Thank you.
Any further questions on that one, councillors? Thank you. I've got 2 on the next one. What is the sustainability review, and why is the word additional in there when it's under this line?
I can talk to this, another one in Saatchi's budget. This has got a really awful title, so I did call Saatchi last night on leave around this. So it's not actually a sustainability review to begin with. So easily confused with the work that sits under QP. What this line item is, that 60,000 that was budgeted last year, is for organisational sustainability initiatives. So what Saatchi wishes to use that money for are things like, with the move to a more sustainable fleet, so more hybrid vehicles. So things like, which obviously sits within our current car budget, but of course those vehicles are more expensive. So Saatchi, in terms of that, and if that money isn't carried forward, it means some of those initiatives are unlikely to happen. So that's what I understand from Saatchi, and we really should address the title of that. It's quite misleading, and it shouldn't be additional. It's money that's already sitting there.
So it's unspent budget.
It's unspent budget
From last year.
From last year.
But it's been, according to this line item, it's not attached to anything specific. It could be used for a range of different purposes.
That's what it was always going to be used for.
Always going to be useful, yeah.
Yeah. I just took the words that actually for organisational sustainability, so it was budgeted in FY 2022 for that, and it's going to be used for that just a year later. That's what I heard.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a reasonably small sum. If it were a larger sum, I'd be questioning that it could be applied to purposes that don't come under the governance of this council. But he gets called it operational within that. Yeah.
Was that a hand going up? I heard a bing bong.
Shirley said that she's got a question about line 25.
Oh, thank you. All right.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry,
so I'll just, I'll stop at line 25 when we get to it, Shirley.
Okay, so no, it's
if that's
line
right.
20, already past it, and I was a bit slow getting to my mic button.
Oh, no worries. Which line are you talking?
It's called Manitoto Trails, but
Oh, right, I'm with you. Thank you. Line 11 on the paper.
To painting. So just
Yeah.
wondering why it's called Trails, and then it's about Manitoto office relating to painting and earthquakes.
That's a very good question, Cheryl. Janice? Right, we'll just pause while Janice gets the answer to that one.
It's the Ranfurly Service Centre, and it's the painting to do with external and internal painting that can't be done until the earthquake strengthening work has been done.
Right, so it's not just work that can't be
It is
done.
budgeted last financial year, we're asking to carry it over.
Makes sense, but why's the word trails there?
It's just been a typo.
Exactly. Well spotted though, Shirley.
Thank you.
Right, we're down.
We did have funding. We did have funding for weed control earlier on. It was 50,000 as well. So I was just checking that it wasn't for maintenance on the, and that.
Yes. Good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so we're now back to line 18 or 32, bicultural regional identity story. That looks to me to have been budgeted, and also money to the BCB District Museum, which was the extra funding given, I presume, to ADMI, which will be much the same pathway as the Clyde Police Lockup. You guys made a decision and the money hasn't got there yet. No problems with that. Economic development, number 19, management consultants. So we budgeted for consultants that we didn't use, but we know we're going to have to.
Yes, and they, this one here, but Nick can talk more to it, but it's tied in with the MB funds. So essentially, if we didn't spend it, we'd have to give it back anyway, wouldn't we, Nick? Is that correct?
Sure, that's exactly right. It's in the money received for Otago Economic Development project.
Right, plainly not keen on giving any money back to the government. The next line is Clyde toilets. So these would be the ones in Lodge Lane as opposed to the new ones, I presume, or they might be down the bottom as well. I don't know. That's the TIF funding. That's pretty self-explanatory. The job's not fully paid for yet. Is that right?
Probably, can you talk to Clyde toilets?
Clyde toilets?
Yep.
Yep. Thank you. The Clyde Hall.
The word additional in there, which has got me interested. So it's only for $3,500, but it says additional budget required. And I go, yeah, so you're saying 3.5 is not enough. We didn't replace the carpet, we're going to still replace it, but we might need more. Is that what it's saying? In which case, fine, that's another issue, but as long as that's all it is.
Sorry, all of those additionals, I thought I'd pulled them out and they haven't. In that column where it's got resolution and it's got type, it's all of those are carry forwards, they're not additional.
Right, so anywhere I've got an additional highlight, I can uncross that and say it's not additional budget at all.
Yeah.
That might make things
The work hasn't been completed. And Molyneux Park public toilets.
No, this is Shirley.
Yeah, that needs some explaining, doesn't it?
So you picked it up. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, so there was underspent budget in the Cromwell toilets. And so that gave them an excess of 9,800. So they've asked that to be transferred into the Molyneux Park public toilets because it comes from the same reserve.
I have no Cromwell Alexandra jokes in this one, so I can hear them coming already.
Yeah, but public toilets are district wide. So
when you spend a penny, you spend a penny to the whole.
It happens. It could have been worse, to be fair. Right, so we saved money in the Cromwell toilets, so can we please spend them in the Alex toilets?
It's simple as that.
Yeah, right. So I have a problem with that because that actually strictly doesn't meet the carryover definition.
I agree.
I'm being picky.
I agree though.
But it's actually a new spend. And we can choose to approve that as a new spend.
But this
But then again, you say, okay, so that's
issues crop up.
it's CapEx, so it probably has less of an issue for me. It just says we're going to spend some CapEx in the Cromwell toilets didn't need to go and put that money into there. Because it's CapEx, so I have a view that says I'm not that concerned.
Yeah, but
Because it doesn't have a rates impact.
it doesn't have a rate impact, but process wise, have we already said we're doing up the Molyneux Park public toilets? Because that jumps to mind from tranche 2 funding, I think, doesn't it? It came up in that conversation.
I think that's the cycles. So it's just
There was,
Through the Cromwell.
yeah.
I'm not sure about long.
there was somewhere very recently, we talked about those toilets that are at the entry and exit to Molyneux Park as being something. Is
We
this a
did talk
new
about those
project?
in the
or-
tranche. We did talk about those in the tranche funding when we talked about some of the other public toilets that need rejuvenating.
So what I'm asking is the 9,800 that we're now wanting to be applied to the Molyneux Park public toilets. Have we approved the upgrade of the Molyneux Park public toilets and they need some more funds, or is this a whole new project that is getting funded from something that's been completed?
Gareth, are you listening?
Yes, there.
Can you
You've
comment
just
on it?
So we've
Yes,
also got
sorry.
Molyneux toilets at line 39, 7,995. Are they separate issues?
So the Molyneux toilets is in the budget, and it just needs that additional funding to supplement it.
Right, so Shirley's question is a very good one. The Molyneux toilets, which is line 39 on the Excel sheet, is that the same toilets and you're just trying to prop it up a bit with some money from Cromwell?
Correct.
Right.
Well, no, I don't know if it is, because line 25, 39 actually refers to Molyneux toilets in the left-hand column and Pioneer Park.
I think there was a saving of 2,100 in Pioneer Park and the
Right.
balance of it.
So as you were, so what they're saying is that the Molyneux public toilet capital project needs an additional 9,810 plus 7,595 being made out of capital non-spends and savings. So my views unchanged. Gareth said the project's in the budget.
Yeah.
There's not enough funding in the capital project. We've got some capital savings. Put it here, otherwise you can't do the project.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I'm fine with that, whereas if it was something new.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
Tell
saying the
us about
same.
it and you'll plan.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone happy?
Yep.
Thank you. Replacement heat pumps, unspent funds for building contingency, increased cost for HVAC and replacing failed units. So basically we had a job not finished. Yes, no?
Gareth, can you talk to that as well?
That would be, yeah. So sorry, yeah.
Dennis can help there, Gareth.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes. So there were unspent funds last year for building contingency for heat pumps. We've just, what we budgeted per heat pump last year is not sufficient now to replace heat pumps this year.
Oh, yeah,
So we
yeah.
asked for an additional 10K.
Yeah, so same thing, it's making sure about an existing project gets done.
So we're not buying new heat pumps, it's program stuff, but we just haven't budgeted enough, but we saved some last year, so
Yeah.
evens it out. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Everyone happy? And then in 24, the Otago Stadium safety rails, work's still in progress, it didn't get done, so the money's still there, it needs to move over a year.
Yes, thank you.
Happy? And the Molyneux toilets we've covered. So all we need to do is go back, I'll check before we finish, but back to line 9
and 10.
And 10, which is the 23-24 for those of you online. How did that all balance out? Because it wasn't making, it's the smallest of the lot, but it wasn't making.
5,400, sorry.
Yeah, Lee and Janice to that.
Thank you.
Sorry, the reallocation of 6K petty rail was this, it's on the wrong line. It should be on the line of its own. It's farming costs for the petty rail recreation reserve committee. They didn't use it last year. They've asked if it can be available to them this year.
Okay,
So they do a bit of spraying, they do a bit of fixing up fencing.
So what is the best way for us to deal with that? Because it wasn't used last year, they need it this year. Have they not got a budget for this year?
No. When they do the budget, they budget like every third year for these sorts of costs. And they did some voluntary work last year.
Right.
Row 39, rental income leased from the funds, the 12,000, is that to do with that?
No,
No.
that's not, something's totally different.
Right.
Okay, so first question, it sounds to me like it's entirely reasonable that that 6K goes across.
It just needs a line of its own.
So we need a line of its own, so we'd have a line 26/39, we're going to call it 26, which is Pariaroa. What would we call that?
Pariaroa Recreation Reserve Committee farming cost.
6, and that's going to need to be added to the 849 for the capex because it's not provided for in either of our columns, is it?
No, it's not capex.
OPEX.
OPEX.
Yes, I'm sorry. What is the OPEX?
Could you talk to that? Because the total of 1332, it might be tied up in another area.
I'm pretty sure that's offset by the additional income.
And the farmer.
Yes.
Take us to the line, please.
Is that line 39?
That's line 39.
That's a different.
I'm working off a different line.
That's the farms. They've leased out walk to pay off the hospital debt.
Yeah, so there was.
Sorry, yep. There was additional income coming into the Pariaroa Recreation Reserve Cost Centre from the lease that's been returned to us.
That's right, yes.
This sounds to me like there's going to be an increase in the OPEX line by $6,000.
I don't think we should be adding the 6,000. I think we'd stick with the 1332, and I think we might need to come back and find out. I think that 6,000 belongs somewhere else within the totals that we've already got. I don't think it should be additional.
No, it's not additional.
So in our sheet, we're going to take that 6,000 reallocation Pariaroa and put a big line through it.
Yep.
And we're not adding an extra line.
No.
And if it turns out that you're wrong, the annual plan will deal with that before they need to do a lot of spraying. If they've missed it this year, they're too late anyway.
Won't matter, just be an overspend and our reserves. It's not going to matter.
Okay, so just drawing us back to making a resolution on this one. Are there any further questions in that block? Have we missed anything between 7 to 25 on the paper or 21 to 39 on the spreadsheet?
So I got one question about the R&M line 10 on the spreadsheet, painting external buildings. And that's just what I take that to be is $21,000 of unspent maintenance work that we want to do this financial year, because we didn't do it last financial year.
Yes,
that's what I need to get.
And not
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dennis is nodding.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now is move that we approve OPEX carry forwards 2021-22 of 800. I'm doing wrong here, mate. Wouldn't that be 849,767? Yeah. Sorry, just got a typo here. So approves OPEX carry forwards of 849,767 and CAPEX carry forwards 2021-2022 of 123,068 as reflected in lines 7 to 25 of the sheet. Yep, I'll move that.
Line 7 to 25 might need to be some alterations to reflect those, take out the additional, that sort of stuff, correct some of the descriptions.
Yeah, I think we don't need to move that.
No, but just like that saying, just some fixing.
Noted.
I've noted.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so I've moved that. Neil seconded it. Any further discussion? All those in favour? Aye. And against? Carried. Thank you. Good progress. Now we come to just a 3-line block, I think. I'm right in saying that. And this is the bring forwards approved. It's almost bringing them backwards. These are things that are at 23-24 that we want to bring into 22-23 for a number of reasons. And they're reasonably self-explanatory, but let's work our way through. Any questions on line 26/43, which is in relation to the promotional grants? It just simply hasn't been uplifted.
Sorry, through the chair, this is the one I was referring to earlier. So this is community grant CCB have already approved.
Yeah.
It's not been uplifted.
Yeah, so this is,
For the future, it's actually not passed, it's just gone into the wrong section.
it's in the wrong section, but we'll keep it there, otherwise we'll get really confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. We don't have anything in our grants policy that if you don't uplift it, you lose it, snooze it, you lose.
I thought we did. We do, but I think they've asked to carry it over then.
We should carry on, yeah.
Yeah, that one was in relation to the tool sheet build, and it was
Yeah.
something they had to do around the resource consent.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm not wanting to be mean, I'm just wanting to make sure that we're abiding by our rules.
We'll just save another report going to the board, eh?
Yeah, yeah. I think
That's the cost.
Then we've got the new public toilets, don't know where, don't know why.
Waiting to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that they're amenity, and that's true for TIF funding. We've got substantial TIF funding, but I need some money in this financial year and then next financial year.
So if we don't do it now, we lose the government money.
Lose the
In on that.
So where do we, and so the capex then, of 120 that we're putting towards the toilets, where are we getting that cash from?
It's already in the budget for 23-24, we're just spending it early.
Yeah.
We're able to do it sooner
Oh,
because
yep,
we've got some
thank you.
TIF funding, but we've got to spend.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and that makes good sense, thank you. And the Clyde Hall, bits and pieces here, why is that being?
Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, I'll just check. Can everybody hear Janice online when she's speaking? Because she's quite a distance away.
Yes, I can.
Cool, thank you.
Yep.
Okie dokie. So, the request to carry that forward was, my details, that's to upgrade the Clyde Hall, for the air training courtrooms to achieve two things. So it's costing, time saving to bring that project forward because they're already doing some work this financial year as well. And they had programmed next financial year to do some work that she wants to bring forward and combine it in one project.
That's basically, you got the painter coming to your house, you might as well do everything that's come back next year and charge more then.
So
Any problem with
further
Yes,
up the
Shirley?
line though, we talked about the carpet up on my line, page, number 5.
Yeah, sorry,
For
take
the
that big sentence out. So it's only, we're only talking, the total was 33.5, of which 3.5 is the carpet. So just ignore, sorry, that piece on the carpet.
Right, so line 21 is just, you happy with that, Shirley?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on those three items, councillors? In which case I will move that we approve bringing forward the 23-24 budgets into the 22-23 annual plan, consisting of OPEX of 8,500 and CAPEX of 150,000, as reflected in lines 26 to 28 of the connection. Martin seconds that. Any further discussion?
Right.
All those in favour? And all those against? Carried. Thank you. All right. On to the main course. We're now looking at a block of 29 through to 45 on the printed sheet, 49 through to 65 on the other sheet. And this is essentially all new money that we're being asked to spend out of our savings. So I think we'll go through these individually and perhaps a little bit slower. So we've been asked to expend $81,000. Who is going to explain this, please?
So
Lou.
this is from library management, our budget, and so all of our libraries combined. And a lot of the cost is made up through some drop-offs of remuneration in the long-term plan. And then the 20K that's looking there is our standard operating costs that seem to be some error within the long-term plan. So for example, having a budget of 2,000 in 21-22 and then going to the long-term plan and having a budget of half that amount. So it is about putting it back in to what it was originally. I've gone through line by line, so I can give more explanation.
You might have to, because I still haven't really got a grip on what's happening, sorry.
Okay, so for example, let's say under library management, under that GL Tim, we've got staff training officer And it was forecasted in the long-term plan at in the end plan, sorry, at 3,760. 3,796, and then in 22-23 it was put in at 1,700. So I was putting it back to what it was actually originally, and that gave us an increase of 2,067.
Why was it decreased in the first place?
I'm not too sure it had dropped away in the long-term plan.
Is there a question from someone there, Wayne?
Cheryl.
Cheryl, question?
Sorry, no, my question is for line 70 on the spreadsheet that we're looking at. It's not for this particular one.
Thank you. I'll make a note of that. Thanks.
So the biggest cost there at the 60,000 was remuneration, Tim, and that was example of it should have been, 16,000 in there in Alexandra Library cattle at 16,000, and going to long-term plan it was 0. I needed to put the money back in.
And it was a mistake, it didn't get carried forward.
I believe so.
Tamer?
There were quite a few of those where staff costs have been missed or entered an error in the LTP. What's happened there? How's that come about?
So that's a really good question, Tamer. We're actually not sure. So we've had quite a few conversations around the organisation this week to try and understand that. There definitely needs to be an absolute process improvement for the next LTP so this doesn't happen again. But some of it could have been user error, and some of it could have been maybe the magic system didn't upload. I don't know if finance can talk more to that, but we haven't been able to pinpoint how those errors come about. But we do note that it's not sort of acceptable or helpful for councils to have this, so we will definitely put process improvements in with the next LTP.
And I think what's happened in some of it is that we've looked for a 10-year long-term plan. The first year, I think most of that information has made it correctly, but in future years it hasn't necessarily flowed through into the next 10 years and has been dropped off.
And because the focus has been on years 1 to 3, not looking out, no one else has picked it up either. All I can say is that I'm not surprised. What's our total rates revenue per annum?
We're an $84 million business.
So what, 41 million in rates? 45 in rates. So if I was to turn around and say 321 divided by 45,000, you've got a 1%, 7%. 7%. Yeah, and but I understand how that can happen, and that you focus on that in 3 years. You've got audit wanting to change things, and then one number gets dropped out because you go to the next sheet and no one picks it up. That's the human aspect of having to do work.
Yeah, that many lines and 0.1% error rate is still going to have quite a number of errors.
And I can bet you that no one's happy that it happened.
I bet. And the lived reality of this is that if we don't approve this request additional, there's a hole in the staff budget, which means people don't get paid. So the why isn't as important as the what, the consequences.
Yeah.
Everyone happy? Well, I'm not going to use the word happy. Is everyone satisfied?
Understand.
Understand. Okay.
I guess the question then for me is this is for year 2. What about year 3? And is it?
So that's what we're looking at soon. So this is year 2 that we want the reforecast, and from now on we're looking at
adding back.
24.
So that has an implication for rates going forward as well. We're lucky this year we can fund it from the savings, which is good. But actually, it will be going straight to rates next year and the years subsequent to that, and but you can't stop it because it's driven in the first place. So suck it up.
Yeah, so we will be starting the modelling soon for the annual plan to bring to the new council. So what our governor's approved today, and the likes of this line item, we will model that as part of the annual plan, so you'll be able to see that, so we won't have the same situation next year.
I can't believe Wood can pick it up. We asked for a rebate of the fees.
I was about to say that. I thought it was better.
I'll try.
Yeah.
Okay, line 30.
I'll sign the letter.
You seen flying pigs recently?
Line 30/50, health and safety. Louise, I think this is yours again. Greater security service, worksafe support, etc., etc. There's quite a list there, and this is genuine, something new you want. Is that right?
It's increased costs going along there, Tim. Yes, absolutely, with the vaccinations, using the EAP service. A lot of things have come along in the last couple of years, and people are using those services a lot more. Of course, you'll see like the security services, the central stories is in there with the increase of costs. Yeah.
So if we don't do this, there'll be an overspend coming through later on. Because the costs aren't actually.
They're not. We don't have a choice.
Yeah, well, you do. You change the level of service.
Yeah.
Just to point out, through the chair as well, like staff salaries are offset as well, so there wasn't an increase in staff salaries under.
But that will have a better effect.
Yeah.
All right, line 31, administration for increase in hospitality and catering.
That was another example of hospitality and catering was put in at 20,000 and the long-term plan was only 5,000.
But would that be a decision somewhere along the way, either by staff at the time or it wouldn't be governance because it's too small, but somebody said we've got a rates issue here, we need to do some trimming was done. And now what we're doing is replacing that trimming, which puts us back in the issue for the next annual plan rates wise. This is. Are we obviating savings that were made and creating ourselves further spending next LTP? Sorry, next example plan year 3, simply because we can, because we've made some savings.
I don't think this would have been an intentional saving. I do think this one again was an error. Yeah.
Sorry, it went from 15,000 to how many?
It was in at 20,000, Tim, and then it was in a long-term plan. So that's in the plan, and long-term plan was at 5,000.
I don't see that.
Increase that by 15.
I don't see how 20 becomes a 5. If 20 became a 2, I go, somebody's dropped a 0, but 20 to become a 5 strikes me as somebody's made a decision.
Yeah, but if you're making an increase, it was already 5 and went to 20 and you didn't carry it through. And listen, you're never going to find out which one of them it was. Part of me says with these, do you turn around and say, actually, we know that we're likely to have savings this year. If the number here is less than a number, don't worry about it, because you'll probably have savings that will cover for it during the year. And as you get closer towards your outturns, then you'll know. And if the money is required, then cover it off then. I can see what you want to try and fix, but actually, is it worth it? And I'm certainly going to say when I look at some of those next ones, if it's sort of, to me, if it's below maybe 15 or 20, you say, no, let's just see how it goes. It's not big enough and warrants enough to actually do it, because you're talking about 321,000 out of 45 million, which is 0.7%. So I'm going to say that if it's not north of $20,000, I'm not really, I don't worth worrying about. Is my gut feel. And you know, you'll probably find you'll pick up $20,000 of savings elsewhere that'll actually let you have the overspends within the delegations you've got for substitutions and that.
Well, I've already done it, haven't I?
Yeah, that would be my call. You know, we're 3 months into the financial year already. Let's not get down to those sort of numbers. It's just.
Right. Okay. I do, not using your $20,000 number though, Neil, that 14,814, which in the description is $15,000 to upskill staff impacted by 3 waters reform, 3 consultant CVs. Do you want to explain that, Saskia?
Yes, this is one we have also got in the wrong place, so apologies, councillors. So what this is, just been talking to Julie Muir today. This is actually, the explanation is completely wrong. $15,000, so this is from the training area, so it's already budgeted, so it should be up in our underspend request to carry forward. So Julie got her staff upskilled on project management, so that was a cost of for just under 15,000. And what happened, unfortunately, with timing, so the training's happened, but with timing, the purchase order wasn't raised in time. So we need to pay the bill. So it really doesn't get that 15,000 carried forward of her underspend with the 70,000 in her area. What it does mean is there'll be very, very little training in the infrastructure space this financial year, because Julie will need to take that 15,000 and prepare training. So that's the explanation there. Again, apologies for what was there, because it was completely wrong.
Can I suggest we actually agree to effectively adjust the previous resolution of 7 to 25, add line 33 into that?
Go down.
Well, it's an underspend to funding by carry forward for something that's already done, and shift it out of this line, move it up, and the resolution already passed for lines 7 to 25.
I'd rather not. I just want to keep things tidy. It doesn't really matter. This would.
Well, it does, because it's in the schedule that says additional to annual plan. It's actually not additional. That's the only reason.
No, let's leave it here, but please put a note on the thing to say note in capitals. This is not additional to annual plan and should be brought forward. Just so we've got that trend tracing. Otherwise, it's got
to be fixed anyway, because the explanation's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
All right. Ran through the call staff. We simply forgot to put a line in to pay them.
Yes, it's been the same as the other staffing issues, the staff budgeting issues. Just didn't get included.
Here's 1, 2, but doesn't get into year 3.
Okay, I'm looking forward to the report that explains how that happens, but for the purposes of today, we just need to make sure that people get paid. Yeah, and the same applies to 35, the Minnesota public tournament. Then we come back to our tour. Well, is anybody hit up about the 5.4 and the 5,000, various bits and pieces?
I thought we'd already done it.
Haven't we done that earlier?
We didn't. Done it.
Yeah, there's your 6.
Oh, there's the 6,000.
There's your 6,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's already.
Yeah, that was part of it.
Yeah. Righto. Cheryl, what was the number you had raised? Sorry?
70.
I don't have a 70.
When it's on the spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah, hi, sorry, it was line 70. It was just the words that said find explanation if additional expenses. I didn't know what that meant.
It was me that didn't finish.
Yeah, sorry, it's line 52 or 32. I don't know how you've got 70.
Oh, it's 70 on our spreadsheet here. That I'm looking at.
Really?
Not on mine.
I think are you on the summary spreadsheet, Cheryl? If you look down the bottom to your tabs.
I was just looking at the approved, but okay.
Yeah, go on to summary and you'll line up with. We won't give the odd man out. We're half and half. We don't need a third.
Yeah, it's okay. It's line 52.
That's it. Yeah.
It just says find explanation if additional expenses. I just didn't know what that meant.
I think it's accounting speak for rats and mice.
Yeah, and I think we came to the view that if it's under 20, we're not going to bother.
Yeah, I heard you saying that, but I just didn't realise what that actually meant.
Sorry, it was the total of all the extra little bits and pieces of adjustments that added up to 8,700. So it was a combination of anything under 10,000.
Okay.
I am interested in line 39, which is 59, the rental hire lease income from farms, 20 grand reduction in leased farming income. Is someone explaining how that's happened? Too many question marks for an explanation for my liking.
Are you there, Kim?
Hello, Kim, are you there?
It's there, just on mute. You're on mute, Kim.
Yes, sorry.
No, you're all right. What's going on here, please?
I'm pretty sure that was another budgeting error. It was taken out in the long-term plan in the first year, but never done in the following years.
What exactly was taken out?
the 20K of farming lease income, because my understanding is we no longer, Janice may be able to.
It's now applied to the hospital loan as opposed to going into reserve like it used to be.
Yeah, so we were, yeah.
Right. Okay, well, that makes sense to me. Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
And then the next decent sized one, even though it's under your magic number, Neil, I wondered about the 16,600 for uniforms, etc. for the visitor centre. That's just fresh money we'd like.
No, so through the chair, that is also one that fell out during the LTP process, although the confusion I think came from the closure of the eyesights when we were meant to bring cost centres back into only having two centres being Ranfurly and Roxburgh. What happened with the central fund, the fund of uniforms and travel, dropped out through that process. So again, one of the zeros that's fallen in there. Just to confirm, it's not for marketing and advertising costs at all. It's actually solely uniform and travel expenses.
So between our Roxburgh and Ranfurly visitor centres, we're going to spend $16,500 on uniforms and travel in the year.
That's what's been spent in budget.
We can see again while we close the election crumble. That's a lot of money. Oh, Shirley's left.
Yes.
Ah, hi Shirley.
It's only here during a lunch break.
Yeah, no, it's good she made it. And then we've got the $65,000 for the elderly person shower. Sounds like a stitch in time sort of a situation. That 25K of that anyway, is that right?
Yes, we've asked for 25K because the linings are starting to deteriorate at the bottom. And if we don't do the work now, we'll be getting into damage in the studs. And then also we've got external rotting padding at Scotland Street, and I've got 2 blocks in John Street, which I've already got budget for, but it's not going to cover.
Yeah. Well, this is a good use of savings to save money further down the track from things deteriorating. And if everyone's happy with that.
Well, this is not savings, is it? This is actually new money.
Yeah, but we use it. It is new money being asked for that's going to be paid for out of savings. So
it's new money.
But it's deteriorating.
Yeah, but, well, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because whether it's a saving as a capital project, then it's new money. If you didn't do it, Janice would come with a report saying, we've got to fix this.
Well, Janice might come to us in the annual plan that's going to cost 20,000 more to do Rockland.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yes.
Yeah. And Ranfurly council officers?
They're closed. They're closed because the staff can't get there.
So initially in the budget, I had placed costed in the LTP to replace the existing diesel boiler with another eco diesel boiler, but we're not going down that track of replacing with diesel, so we are replacing with an electrical boiler. And so this is the additional cost that it's going to require to replace with the electrical boiler, plus redo our radiators and increase our cable line capacity to the building. Now we can't, some of that work we can do initially, but some of it we can't. We don't have to wait till the earthquake strengthening because of the pipes coming through the radiators. So we don't do it in one chunk, one bite, wait and do it in one bite, or replace the boiler and then do the rest after the earthquake strengthening. Our current boiler is obsolete, we can't get repaired parts.
Right.
And the technician is getting really annoyed with us.
Yeah. But it's still kind of functioning because you wouldn't want to.
It kind of, yeah. When it shuts off and we have problems relighting it, getting enough from Alexander to fix it when it's obsolete is getting more and more difficult.
It's not like we're going to have a choice.
Well, sorry, Jan, the choice was you're really going to replace the boiler with what?
With another diesel boiler, but more lower emission and lower burning.
So I understand, I understand this is under the sustainability policy, but it would be interesting to know what it's costing us to replace diesel with electricity. It'd be interesting. We should know what the cost of adopting that sustainability strategy is.
So initially, I don't have that answer.
Yeah.
Initially, when I did the work, it wasn't for the money I had in the budget, it wasn't to replace the radiators. It was just to replace the boiler, swap out one diesel boiler for another. But yes, I can.
I'm in a way, I'm using your example, but on a more general level, we need to be doing the cost benefit.
It would be interesting to know, just as an example, not relevant to today, but
Yeah.
How hard would that be to find out, James? I'm not suggesting we're going to change, but Nigel's right. If we're suddenly incurring, so that's called make diesel boilers.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They do. They're a lot more compact.
Well, it's all very well to be silent pure, but we still need to know what the adoption of the policy costs us.
I do know we would have saved 25% on our diesel bill if we continue to use the diesel. I haven't done any work around what it's going to cost to run the electrical boiler.
But even at CapEx, how much more expensive is a new electrical boiler as opposed to a new diesel one? I think is the question you're asking.
Okay, so what do I have in the?
I don't expect you to know right away.
I can't quite remember what I have in the initial budget.
No need to worry about it now, but maybe if you could just drop Nigel and myself an email out of interest, and it doesn't have to be.
Because going to electrical boiler, it's obviously triggered an upgrade of the
KVA.
Of the KVA,
Yeah.
It ain't cheap either. You know what electricity comes with that.
Yes. And moving on, the last one, I had a couple of people ask me what is the Dragon Den. So do you want to explain what that's all about?
Yes, I can explain that. And so again, that's been a bit of an internal lingo there. So the Dragon Den is a process that we use as the LTP for the executive team. We went through the requests from the staff, and what we did is do a sensory check of them before we presented them to you. So some didn't make it through, like staffing requests and things like that. So what's happened with that one is ET said that that's a good idea, put it in the budget for consideration by governors, and again that's been, looks like one of our areas again, and so that's part. So Gordy, can you explain what it's for?
No. That's what you got on me.
That may be one, if it, even though it's $5,000, do we let it slide, or do we say we'll bring it back when you can?
Well, no, it's capital, so you can't really let it slide. You're going to get a report that's going to cost you $2,500 to come to us and consider. So
we're not finished, Marty.
Computers on that.
Okay, so any further discussion on any of those? Have I jumped over anything or gone too fast on anything? No, in that case, what I'm going to do is move line F, which is that we approve additional expenditure not included in the original 22-23 annual plan, OPEX of 321037, CAPEX of 120,000.
No.
No, why do you get 125,000?
Because you're going to take some lines out, aren't you?
Which ones?
Well, those ones that are less than 20 grand, I just think that.
Oh, I thought you said we were going to just keep them in, but not argue about them.
Well, I suppose you could do it either way, yeah.
Yeah, I think we need that.
Okay.
Got a base number.
What I was trying to explain was that if you left them out, there would be savings happen that would cover it anyway. But my logic actually works the other way as well, so I'll shut up.
Is it 120 or 120? You've given me a draft for 125. It's 120. Broken down as per lines 29 to 45 of the annexure. I'll move that. Thank you, Martin. Any further discussion? All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Before I take us to a final discussion on the application for a grant of $10,000 by the Cavalcade, I note that we've called an extra meeting and had an hour and a half and come to where we would have gone if we hadn't have done our job on Wednesday and just said, yeah, that's all right. I still maintain that we did the right thing with
no diligence.
With no diligence. Due diligence has worked very well, and that it has shown that what was requested was proper, but the scrutiny put upon those requests was equally proper. I'm getting a couple of opinions. Is that questions or?
Sure, it's just for a couple of minutes and I said it.
No, okay. All right, so now.
Jim, before you move on, I have a question. Stephen here.
Yeah.
So if you take the the addition, when everything's added up across the bottom, and you're looking at 1332,723 and 1210,718, total of 25,43,441. That's the bottom line. That's on 68 of mine. So my question's really basic. It's like, I can't see why we're approving all that additional spend, or have I picked that up wrong? So are they the additional amounts?
So the 1332 is made up of what's already been approved in council resolution of 182,000. The underspends that we're asking to carry forward of 849, the additional 8.5 that we're asking to bring forward from a future year, and then the additional is 321 that we're asking for. And then the adjustment in there, we had a savings in the finance area of about 25,000, and there was about 3,000 of adjustments. So that total comes to 1332. So it's made up of all of the different blocks that we've got there.
Can I go one step further to how I've priced it, Stephen, is that to me, all we've really done is we've saved a whole lot of money because we didn't spend it last year, both CapEx and OpEx. We've approved some of it to be carried forward to complete those projects that weren't done. And then we said, actually, there's been some other things that have been missed in the long term, in the annual plan for year 2. And they total 265,614 plus 100 in OpEx and 120 in OpEx, sorry, CapEx. That's the only new stuff. And actually the good thing is, because of the savings last year, we are funding that this year, FY22, in year 2, by those savings. So there's no new money being spent. The 265 has implications for year 3, but that'll be a subject for the year 3 annual plan. So that helps you see it in a different light.
Yeah, because the way it's presented here, it looks like we're spending an additional 1332,723, which isn't correct.
No,
it's not. It's not correct. So, and then if you look at the savings we've made that are listed, well, from on my spreadsheet from 3 to 9, then we are well in credit.
Yes, for OpEx. Yes, we are. So,
Yeah,
so we
well
saved
impressed.
1.7 in last year's accounts in OpEx specifically, and
Yes.
we're asking for 1.32 to spend.
Yeah.
So what we rated for, we've already rated for that 1.7 that we didn't spend.
Yes. Yeah. So it's just that, I mean, just initially when you're looking at it, you think, wow, that's a huge additional figure, but it isn't that great. So, yeah, anyway.
The other way that in order to get my head around this, the lines 1 to 25 that are here, they're not so much savings as just money you haven't spent yet that you still have to.
Yeah.
And it's just moving across the financial year to the other financial year.
Yeah. And Neil did suggest something that I would have agreed with too, shifting something back to where it should have been, but that wasn't a lot of money. So anyway.
It's going to be noted though.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm fine.
It's just for confusion was what I was worried about.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're on to the cavalcade, if that's all right with everybody. And it's simply, who's going to talk to this? We'll get ourselves back on track.
This is the 10K for the cavalcade that was supposedly promotional money. So I was hoping Tammy was going to be in the room, and she's not. So I suppose that's either me or yourself that will be talking to this. And I don't know, unless I've got it wrong, it's how much we've got in reserves. Is that correct to say that we've got 281,000? Yeah.
So we left this one to lie on the table following last meeting, June meeting on Wednesday. Just given that we didn't have a good picture of our financial position in the meeting and the carry forwards. So it's absolutely correct. The 10,000 that is requested would need to come out of the reserve pot, and I'll just hand it over to Ali and Dylan and see if there's any final words from the team around that.
No, it's just simply a reminder. This is one of those exception ones, once again, where you don't have a promotional grant. at council level, at district level, but this is effectively a request for that, which has got to come from your reserves.
And we've done it before for Crank, sorry, through you, Stephen, we've done it before for Crank Works
And Wollong.
and Wollong,
Yeah.
which shows to me that we need to get a promotional grant so that we stop doing ad hoc things like this.
Or not.
Or not.
Or not. Yeah,
not.
because
Yeah.
there's nothing, I think having a policy might be the rod for your back you don't want. To consider them on a one-off basis is actually not a bad thing, because that means that the rigor's got to be applied to it. It's not just a sort of done deal.
It's not a rubber stamp. You create a full promotional grant and then you'll find ways to spend.
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we just have to accept that it's going to come out of reserves though.
Well, it gets funded, well, it comes out of the cost centre that it relates to, but that cost centre is funded with a $10,000 contribution from the reserves account.
No, it comes from reserves.
No,
because
it
there
comes
is
from
no
reserves.
sector attached to this.
Yeah, there's no.
Oh, yeah, true, yeah, sorry, and the normal course of events, that's what we have, because there's no account, it's quite like, yes, I do that. No.
So, and I did have an issue around this, which I raised before, and it's around sustainability with the way they run the cavalcade. So, whilst I'm not overly opposed to this, I would think there must be some way that we can put some conditions on it so that if it wasn't required, I'm not sure how they're going to spend it, but if it wasn't required, it would be repaid, because I don't particularly like the idea of entities making being funded from promotions or grants, and then they make a whole heap of money and they spend it somewhere else.
Well, in that case, Stephen, is it appropriate to provide it as a grant by way of guarantee against loss?
It's
Just going back to advice from the finance department previously, is guarantee against loss. It's not a process that they support.
There was some,
Another process, might have.
Don't support.
there's some fish hook with all
Yeah.
that. for that.
Guarantees against loss are just really stick. They're not like, it was indicated quite strongly when the representatives of Goldfields came to debate to us, and they acknowledged that they need to start looking at how they can start using the cavalcade for income for themselves as an organisation. And I would say that if we approve this grant, we should communicate to them that they would look at their income streams and actually see the cavalcades as a potential source of income for the overall group, as well as for the host towns. Because right now they direct all the profit straight back to the host town.
No, they don't get the profit back. Host town's got their own fund.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing to do with the trust.
I think they accepted that though, didn't they? It was just this was a one-off with COVID situation and it caused them some really big problems. It's like one of the things.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with that. This is just a one-off, but looking forward, you'd have to think they need to put a wee bit more thought into sustainability of running this event, because pipping all the money they get back into the community doesn't leave any money for them to roll forward to the next cavalcade, and I don't think that's what you call a sustainable model. So anyway,
And have a little whoops fun. Yeah.
It hasn't to say that there are other events that run the same process.
yeah, I'm just saying that maybe we could be a bit smarter about how we do that too, because it does place other issues in the community when sometimes they're funding something that maybe the community board in that area would not agree with, and that's happened. So anyway, I'm happy to move that we take 10,000 from reserves for the cavalcade.
Do we need anything else, Wayne? Is that all we have?
No, I think I'd like to see that we actually quite clearly stipulate what that money will be spent on and require them to produce evidence that it's spent on that particular thing. So I'm just looking at what they actually asked to spend it on.
They've asked it for costs to support them organising the cavalcade event.
Right, so I think that's simple. The resolution should be for that. And the second thing should be that they give us a report back to show how they spent it on that.
Yep.
That provides some, they have to make sure that they can explain the spending, and it's not, I'm not saying, well, yeah, we could say, and if not spent on that purpose, I would be able to be demonstrated to be spent on that purpose, it shall be refunded.
First 10,000, so I think it's surplus from the cavalcade event is.
If they don't make a surplus from the event, the host town make a surplus. The trust don't run the cavalcade in the host town.
And the thing is, we're digging them out of a hole. Put them straight back in the hole. But I think that doesn't have to be in the resolution, but the message needs to get through that this is not going to be a continued ongoing funding. COVID's caused a big issue for them, and it's an important community event. It's part of virtually part of our history, while commemorating our history now. It's been going that long.
Well, COVID, the whole in actually demonstrates why there should be full reserves.
Agree.
Yeah.
But hopefully they've learned that lesson, and if they haven't, then the next time it happens, the council might say no. Wayne, can you read the resolution?
Yeah, the resolution, actually you already had that, other bits in it. Agrees to fund the Otago Goldfields Heritage Trust $10,000 towards the cost of organising the 2023 cavalcade from the General Reserves Fund. Brackets 1111.
So that was Stephen and Lumley, wasn't it?
Stephen and Lumley, yeah.
All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Done.
Thank you. I'll bring this meeting to a close, but I'll bring it to a close with recognition of the extreme pressure, because I've been in the building and seen it. In fact, I felt a bit of it, that it's put Saskia and others under. I'm not going to apologise for that, because this was us doing our job, and we've got there in the end. But I do thank you for the extra work that has gone into that. And yeah, you might have one time.
I think for us, I think it has identified that, you know, there are some improvements that we can make to make this much clearer. Next time there's other something fixes that we need to do as well. So, you know, thank you for your patience if we were to bring that today with you.
We were glad as your governors to help you.
I think